G'day guys, welcome back to Living with BC. Got a couple things I want to go over today. Number one is going to be my February challenge out of my 12 monthly challenges. And number two, we're going to have a quick chat about my latest read, which is Tell No Lies by Greg Hurwitz. So let's get stuck in, let's get straight into it. Number one, my February challenge out of my 12 monthly challenges was to run 1.5k every single day. Look, fell down on this one, didn't achieve it. I did do the first sort of 12 days, I think, from memory, 12 days in a row. Went out, got it done. Felt good, didn't really see a huge amount of progress in that time, but after that other things got in the way and I didn't prioritize it as well as I should have. I could stand here and say that, COVID reared its ugly head and we went into a 5-day lockdown. I had a mate come down for my birthday and I prioritised hanging out with him and watching the tennis over getting out and getting it done. A few personal issues arose in that time as well, but look, at the end of the day, I've only got myself to blame. I didn't achieve it. I was in total control. I had the power to go out and do it and I just didn't. Motivation wasn't there for me. I'm pretty disappointed with myself given it was only 1.5k. And I set that smaller target so that hopefully it wasn't too daunting and I go, oh geez, I have to run 5k. In this case, it was only 1.5k. Get out there, get it done, but didn't do it. All in all, like I said, I did about 12 days in a row, did well. And after that, maybe another 3 or 4. So sort of 16, 17 in total. But that's it. Trying not to dwell on it too much. I'm just going to focus on the next one. We're now almost halfway through March and going so well at the moment. So thumbs up, fingers crossed that momentum and motivation carries over and I'll see how we go. All right, number 2 we're going to have a chat about is the novel Tell No Lies by Greg Hurwitz. I came across this one because I'd read Orphan X and the Nowhere Man from the Orphan X series by Greg Hurwitz a few years ago when they first came out, and I wanted to finish the series, so I was looking for those books and this one was right next to it. Read the premise, sounded interesting, picked it up, and I was not disappointed. I am going to try and do this spoiler free. I'm struggle doing that, but I'll try to give you a hint of it without ruining the book for you in case anyone wants to pick it up. But basic premise is there's a bloke who's working in like a group social counselling service, and he receives mail out of his pigeonhole, just goes and grabs a bunch of it, ends up getting home, and there's a death threat in one of them, not to him, to someone else. And it says to this person, admit what you've done by this date and time or you'll bleed for it. And so him and his wife, the date's passed by this time he gets the letter. So him and his wife Google the bloke's name, and sure enough, he was murdered on that day. So they contact police and they take the letter and try and see if they can, get fingerprints or whatever out off it. Once the cop goes, he finds out that there's more letters in amongst his big bundle of mail, and they're the same sort of thing, addressed to different people. They've got certain deadlines, and if they don't admit what they've done, then they're going to die. He gets roped into it along the way and ends up, interfering with one of the murders, and then he sort of catches the eye of the killer, and it gets going from there. Incredibly well done. It does start off a little bit slow, and I was worried that, from what I know, the Orphan X series comes after this book. So I was worried that maybe in the Orphan X series he'd matured as an author and really grown and honed his craft, which I'm sure he did. But then this one being before that, from what I know, maybe it was a little bit slower and not as tight-knit. That's not the case. It's just the first 2 or 3 chapters that are like that, and then it goes into that really short, sharp chapters that from thrillers. It's pretty clear that Greg Hurwitz is either from San Francisco or lived there for a period of time, or hell, maybe he's making it all up and hopes that no one from San Francisco reads it. But he does a really good job of making you feel like the city. He'll talk about this certain street and it flows past this landmark or feature or a certain park or whatever it might be, and you feel like you're driving or walking with the character, which is a great mark of a really, really good author. It's what the best authors do really well, is make you feel like you're part of the story, not just a bystander watching from afar. So it's incredibly well done in that aspect. But it also breaks up the thrillerness. You don't want it to be too, what's the word? I don't even know. Suspenseful all the time. It does have great suspense, and there are a lot of times where I was on the edge of my seat. I actually got a little bit creeped out at some bits of it, because it's got that sort of, really eerie, suspenseful setting, which is obviously it's what you want in a thriller. So that's really well done. Another thing I liked about this book was often I can usually pick either one or two people who are going to end up being the culprit. And I'm usually right in either that first choice, and if not them, it turns out to be the second choice. In this one, there's about 6 or 7 people to choose from, and I had absolutely no idea, because it changes circumstances so often that you're like, oh, it's obviously person A, and then something comes up and they've got a bit of an alibi. You're like, oh, okay, well then I'll go with person B, and something comes up and they've got an alibi. It just keeps going like that, and then you find out maybe person A's alibi wasn't as airtight as they thought it was, or person B's alibi, and you're just like, mate, who's doing this? Who is killing these people and leaving these letters everywhere? Like, what's going on? I loved it. Thought it was really good, especially the ending. Like I said, with all those people, you keep guessing who it is. They give you a bit of information. You're like, oh, it's definitely going to be this person. Let's go get him. And they go, and then they give a different piece of information. You're like, oh, has to be them then. Let's go get them. And then it just goes on about 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, mate, by the third time, I'm like, I have no idea who it is. Just reveal it to me already. But the way they did that was awesome. And I won't spoil this for you, but there is a bit which is really, really well done near the beginning of the book. And just sort of sets it up perfectly, I think, in my opinion. It's all subjective, right? Like, you might read it and hate it, and you're like, this living with BC bloke, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But for me, I thought it was perfect. And I'm really glad I saw it sitting next to the Orphan X series. So super glad I picked it up. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, because I was really into it. I honestly couldn't stop reading it. I'd stay up late reading it, and that was not a good thing for this creepy sort of book. But yeah, definitely satisfying ending. It's not like you pick who the killer's going to be like halfway through or 2/3 of the way through. You just keep guessing all the way. So a brilliant read. Alright guys, that's pretty much all I've got. I mean, if you have any questions, throw them in the comment section. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Until then, I'll see you next time. As always, stay cool.